Asmat Gurubhyo Namaha, Asmat Parama Gurubhyo Namaha, Asmat Sarva Gurubhyo Namaha. So we're continuing on with our discussion of the third Vilasa of Hari Bhakti Vilasa. Up until yesterday, or the last session we had, we were talking about the toothbrush. We get up in the morning and we answer the calls of nature, then we go take a bath, and after we answer the calls of nature and wash, then before we take the bath, we clean our teeth with a toothbrush, we scrape the tongue. So there was a discussion about different days when you can use a toothbrush, when you can't use a toothbrush. Or of course, fasting days, you don't use a toothbrush, but you use a leaf or some other thing. Of course, nowadays, everybody uses a toothbrush with toothpaste, but a particular type of stick from certain trees, not from other trees, and how long it should be. And we talked about all that. So we talked also about combing the hair. We also talked about, basically we talked about putting on clothes, putting on fresh clothes, putting on clean clothes, and tilak, although we didn't go into the details of putting on tilak and saying Achman. And then we got up to the point of doing Sandhya Vandanam, doing Vedic Sandhya Vandanam and Tantric Sandhya Vandanam. So Tantric Sandhya Vandanam would be Vaishnava Sanjia Vandanam, where we would chant the Vedic Sanjia Vandanam. You chant the Vedic mantras, the Gayatri Mantra, and some other Vedic mantras. And in Pancharatric or Tantric Sanjia Vandanam, you're going to be chanting the mantra, the Vaishnava mantra, which you've been initiated into by your guru in the second Vilas. We talked all about initiation from the guru, and he gives the particular mantra. So in terms of Hari Bhakti Vilasa, this is normally the Gopal mantra, the 18-syllable Gopal mantra, and whatever other mantras you were initiated into at the time of initiation. So we'll put the text on the screen, and I think we're going to start around text 300, and why don't we start with, let's go back a little bit here. So 307 you just finished. One should not use the piece of cloth that one has covered himself with while bathing to wipe his body. So I'm going to put up a video for everybody of a very an old Vaishnava Brahmin taking a bath, taking a ritual bath with all the mantras and all the procedures, which I took many, many years ago. And so everybody can see what it's like, what the ritual bath is about. We discussed about the ritual bath also before that. So, but anyway, the idea in verse 307 here, it says that somebody will be wearing a cloth when he takes bath. He'll be wearing what's called a gamsha, probably also kopina he'll be wearing, and he'll be wearing gamsha. And this gamsha is like a towel, a thin towel, which is wrapped around the waist. And that gets wet when you take bath, but you cannot use that piece to dry yourself. Like some people might, when they come out of the water, they might take that off and wring it out and then use it to try to dry themselves off with. But here it's specifically stated, you should not use that one. And some people take bath with two pieces of cloth also. There will be an angavastram also. So one should use a fresh cloth for this purpose. After drying himself, he should put on a dhoti and chadar. So depending on what stage of life he's in, he might wear a vesti or what looks like a lungi, a shorter piece of cloth, or he, either if he's taken sannyas or if he's a brahmachari. And a dhoti would be with normally there are many different styles. I also have a very nice book which describes all the different styles of folding of cloth for men and women in India. And we see this throughout Asia. People wear cloth and they fold it in certain ways, and that's how they dress traditionally. So this is all traditional dress. And the chadar is, of course, normally worn either around the waist or when in very hot places, or over the left shoulder, just like the upavita, like the sacred thread. And So then he puts on the dhoti and the chada, and he sits down and he performs Achamana. We haven't actually gone into the details of Vaishnava Achamana yet, but Achamana has been mentioned a couple of times. We mentioned two types of Achamana. We mentioned with water and without water. The Achamana without water is just simply touching the right ear, because that purifies us. And South India, they touch the nose and then the right ear, because the nose is a center of Agni. Agni is the fire god, which... it's a warm part of the hand, a warm part of the nose, like that, has some Shakti or some power of Agni there. So it's got the heat purifies us. So when we touch the right ear contains the holy rivers like the Ganges of a Brahmin. So that also purifies us. So that is called Srotra Achamana or ear Achamana. And the other type of Achamana, which is useful when we're in bed and we want to chant some prayers in bed just after we wake up, then we can do that type of Achamana. But also there's this water Achamana where we sip water from the palm of the right hand, from the Brahma Tirtha. And accompanying that, there's also different places in the body to touch with different names of the Lord. So that's going to be mentioned a little bit later on. But first of all, we're going to get this. So it says here in 308, it says, while seated, so he's sitting down and doing Achamana. We also discussed, I think yesterday, that there are some rules with Achamana. You're not supposed to say Achamana standing. But these are very small rules. And in fact, if you're in a temple, it may be that when you're on the altar of a temple, you need to say Achamana, there may only be standing room in that small temple room, that small deity room. So a lot of times you see that the priests are performing ritual worship standing. So it may be common that some people have to say Achamana even standing. But normally the idea is there should be an asana or a seat or a mat that you sit down on. And that could be, normally it's made of kusha grass, or it could be made of wool, something which is pure. That's also probably going to be described. I believe that's in the 17th Vilasa, where it talks about Puruscharana. It's going to describe about different sitting places: tiger skin, deer skin, wool, kusha grass. There's different, or just a plain wooden seat. So there are different sitting places. They'll be described later on. So for now, we're just trying to get through these to get to the point of, in the 5th Vilasa, we're going to actually start the ritual worship of the deity for the day. And so we have to get through our morning ablutions and getting ready. So the Vaishnava day is actually divided up into 5 parts. So those parts are called Abhigamana, Upadhana, Ija, Svajaya, and Yoga. So Abhigamana means all the activities that you do to get ready to worship the deity, right? That you personally have to do. So you have to get up, you have to do your ablutions, you have to take bath, you have to get dressed, put on tilak, you have to do all those sort of things. Then you have to collect things. That's Abhigamana. So then the next stage is Upadhana. Upadhana means dana means to give, but Upadhana means to get things, to get things. And so you have to prepare all the samagris, all the ingredients for doing the worship of the Lord. So you collect tulsi leaves, you collect flowers, you get water in pots, you get all these different spices and things, what we discussed before, the astagandha, the 8 different types of spices that you have to put in the different vessels, which are called vattils, or vattils, that's a Tamil word, but they're patras patras in Sanskrit, vessels. And this is all for the ritual worship of the deity. So that Upadhana is getting things together to do and then afterwards the next section. So that's the first Abhigamana and Upadhana, the first 2 parts of the day. The third part, there's divisions. They're not equal divisions, of course, and they're they're 2 activities. They're basically activities. There's a book called Panchakala Kriya Deepa, light on the activities that are done in 5 different times. So the first activity is Abhigamana, second one is Upadhana, then comes Ija. Ija, more commonly we use the word puja. Puja means the ritual worship of the deity. So puja or archana are common words to use for the worship of the deity. In this case, it's normally the third thing is called Ija in Pancharatra. So Abhigamana, Upadhana, Ija is the worship of the deity. Then Svadhyaya. Svadhyaya means study, and it also means teaching. So you're studying the scriptures, you're studying something, or you could be teaching a certain thing. So that's the third thing. And then the fourth thing is yoga. Yoga can mean mystic yoga, it can mean Kundalini yoga, it can mean different types of yoga. And normally the minimum it is when you would just simply take rest. Taking rest at the end of the day, meditating upon the lotus feet of the Lord. That's a type of yoga, dhyana mantra. And it refers to that, yoga. Like we have yoga nidra, right, which the Lord is in his mystic sleep. So we would also do this. This is the fifth activity that we do every day. We're going to go to sleep. Okay, so these are the 5 divisions of the day. So here it says, in 308, it says that he should sit down, and after bathing, he should mark his forehead, right, and body with tilak, and then he should perform achamana again. So there's a few different times we did an achamana after we cleaned the teeth, and then after the bath, and then after getting dressed again and putting on tilak, another achamana. Before putting on tilak, also achamana, and then after putting on tilak, after. I think we discussed yesterday also that you shouldn't actually do achamana unless you have tilak on. But there's a problem, because when you take a bath, obviously you wash off the tilak, then you have to say achamana before you put the tilak on. So there's an exception to that rule of saying achamana without tilak, because you have to do it every day after you take bath anyway. So you have to break that rule every day. So it's an exceptional thing. So, like I said, standing or without tilak, you're not supposed to do those. You're not supposed to say achamana, do achamana in those conditions. But these are very small rules, and sometimes there have to be exceptions to those particular rules, because otherwise you can't put on tilak, because you have to say achamana first. Okay, so then thereafter he should perform the Vedika Sanjaya. Now, Vedika Sanjaya, the Vedic Sanjaya, those persons who have had the Upadhana samskara, they're wearing the sacred thread. They've got the Gayatri Mantra from the Vedas, the Vedic Mantra. Usually, people of the 3 higher classes, the Brahmins, the Kshatriyas, the Vaishyas, meaning the intellectuals, the administrators, and the entrepreneurs, the businessmen. Those people have got the Upadhana samskara. They have the Vedic mantras. They have the right to chant and meditate on the Gayatri Mantra and chant Vedic mantras. So those people do the Vedika Sanjaya, and that's done 3 times a day. The word Sanjia, Sandhi means to join. So when the night joins the day, that's called dawn. When the day joins the night, that's called dusk. When the morning joins the afternoon, that's called noon. So these are 3. There's actually a 4th one at midnight, whether before midnight and after midnight, or the middle of the night. There's another Sanjia. These are the joining of the different parts of the day. So Sanjaya is performed at the 3 Sanjayas, dawn, noon, and dusk. So morning, noon, and evening. Right. So morning, noon, and evening, you have to chant the Gayatri Mantra. And some people chant 1,000 times, some people chant 100 times, some people chant, or 108 times, and some people 1,008, 108. Some people chant 10 times. This is like considered to be the minimum, like that. So it'll be discussed also later on in Hari Bhakti Vilasa. So the Vadika, and then there are 2 parts to the Vadika Sanjaya. there's what we call the Jala Bhaga and the Japa Bhaga. So Bhaga means a part. So there's two parts. There's the part that has to do with water, which comes first, and then there's the other part which has to do with counting the mantras, chanting the mantras so many times. So it is a worship of Lord Narayana, who is situated as Surya Narayana in the sun. The sun is a very important thing. Lights up the world and gives us the power to live. And therefore we call it Pratyaksha Devata. The sun is called Pratyaksha Devata, or the form of God that we can see with our naked eyes. Of course, we can see the deity in the temple, but in nature, if we look up in the sky, the Lord is there looking down on us as Surya Narayana. He's the solar deity. So this Gayatri Mantra, Tat Savitavarenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yo Na Prachodayat, with the Vyahritis Om Bhoho, Bhuvaha, Suvaha, or Swa. If you're a Sukla Yajurvedi, Swa. If you're a Krishna Yajurvedi, Suvaha. These Vyahritis, which we discussed before, and the Omkara preceding the Gayatri Mantra from the Vedas, right? This is what is to be chanted and recited and meditated upon, and you meditate upon Lord Surya Narayana in the sun, like that. And so it's important. So you do it morning, noon, and evening, because these are important times of day for the sun coming up, the sun going down, and the sun when the sun is straight overhead or highest in the sky. Okay, so the first part, there's some water to sip with mantras to destroy our sins, and also sprinkling on ourselves to purify ourselves. And also we offer water to the sun in the form of arghya, which is symbolically supposed to help the sun ward off the attack of some demons. There are some demons that attack the sun at different times. And the Brahmins offering water to the sun as Surya Arghya is supposed to throw those demons back to the place where they came from, so they no longer attack the sun. Okay, there's a lot of imagery there and analogy, and if you want to go more deeply into the actual meaning, it's possible to do that, but we'll just continue on here. We're just a brief explanation of what Sanjia is. We're not explaining fully the internal meaning of Sanjia Vandanam and the Gayatri Mantra here. So then there's a Tantric Sanjaya, as I said, after that. And the Tantric Sanjaya would be done also at the similar time of day. It could be done 3 times a day. Or maybe in case of Tantric Sanjaya, maybe even done once a day. We don't know. Like that. So it depends upon the guru is going to give some instruction to the students. The teacher will instruct the students on how to do these things. Normally, even before taking Vaishnava initiation in the house, the father or would instruct the boys how to do the Vedic Sanjaya. And then the guru, the Vaishnava guru, is going to instruct how to do the Tantric Sanjaya, how to chant what mantras are given in the initiation. And when in the initiation, the guru has to tell the lineage of the mantra. He has to tell the Guru Parampara and in which he received the mantra, and he has to tell all the different angas of the japa. He has to tell the student the meaning of the mantra, which is very important, right? And any meaning, esoteric meaning, secret meanings of the mantra, and he has to also explain how to use the mantra in puja, in homa, in fire sacrifice, or in ritual worship of the deity, and also how to just chant the mantra japa and meditate upon the meaning of the mantra. So that's all explained at the time of initiation by the acharya, by the teacher. And so then that is followed by the student. So every day he's going to do this probably 3 times a day. So even if he's not a Brahmin, Kshatriya, or Vaishya, he's going to be a Vaishnava. He's going to do this Tantric Sanjaya, Vaishnava Sanjaya. We can call it Pancharatric Sanjaya, right? Or Agamic Sanjaya. It means Tantric Sanjaya. Okay, so now he's going to go into a little bit more detail about Vedic Sanjaya. But Vedic Sanjaya, more or less, he doesn't really, Gopal Bhatta Goswami, Sanatana Goswami, they don't need to explain this to people who are reading Hari Bhakti Vilas. Because the people who are reading Hari Bhakti Vilas, first of all, Hari Bhakti Vilas is in Sanskrit. So the people who were learning Sanskrit in those days were going to a Gurukul and they were studying Sanskrit in the Gurukul. So they already, because they went to the Gurukul, they were already doing Sanjia Vandana. They already knew how to do Vedic Sanjaya. Otherwise, in the Gurukul, they don't allow people who are non-Brahmins or non-Kshatriyas or non-Vaishyas, right? Sudras are not allowed in the Gurukul normally. So the people in the Gurukul learning Sanskrit, they're all Brahmins, Kshatriyas, and Vaishyas. They all know Sanskrit. And therefore, the people reading this book would all be very, very familiar with all the rituals, the Brahminical rituals, but maybe not so much the Vaishnava rituals, which are separate. So we have these parallel tracks, these twin tracks, the Vadika and the Tantrika, right? The Vedic or Nigama and Agama, right? Nigama means Vedic, Shruti, and Agama means Pancharatric, or in this case, Pancharatric or Agamic. There are different agamas. There's Vaikhanasa agama also for Vishnu worship. But we follow the Pancharatra agama. Okay, so then there are other agamas for people who are Shaivas and Shaktas and those sort of people. They have their Shaiva agama, Shakta agama. Even there's Bodh agama and Jaina agama. There are even agamas, shastras written for Buddhists and for Jains. Okay, so these agama shastras just tell people how to worship and how to do their practice. They're very practical scriptures. Okay, so in our case, the Pancharatra is our practical scripture, and this Hari Bhakti Vilas is basically the Pancharatric. It's a compilation of things from the Puranas and Pancharatras by Gopal Bhatta, according to the order of Lord Chaitanya. So Lord Chaitanya, Sri Chaitanya, he asked Sanatana Goswami to write the book, and Gopal Bhatta and Sanatana Goswami, they wrote the book, and they collected all these things from the Agamas, and so it's a summary. It's a summary. So here he's going to give a little bit. He's going to give some rules. Just he's assuming that everybody knows all the rules about Vedic Sanjia Vandana, but he's going to give a few anyway. So here, just to make the book complete. Yeah, go ahead.
One question: where's the place of this information from Puranas? Where is this coming from? Is this coming from more from Pancharatra, or is this a separate source about the worship?
Well, okay. Well, I think you've seen as we're going along in Hari Bhakti Vilas. For instance, here we've got a quote from Kuma Purana. Then we've got a quote from Manu Smriti. So we have the 18 Dharma Shastras or the Smritis, right? Manu, Yajnavalkya, Parasara. There's all these different Gautama. There's many Smritis. Apastamba, Bodhayana, right? There's many of these Smritis. Dharma Shastras, and so they're used, and then the Puranas, we have 18 Puranas, out of which 6 of them, they're divided into 6 and 6 for Sattvic, Rajasic, and Tamasic, or those Puranas in the mode of goodness, passion, and ignorance. So what we normally would take most of our quotes from the Sattvic Puranas, but there might be some quotes from the other Puranas which we can use also if they don't contradict the ones in the Sattvic. Like if in the Rajasic and Tamasic Puranas, if it talks all about the worship of Shiva and the worship of Shakti and the worship of different demigods, then we're not interested so much in that as Vaishnavas. So we would take only the things which are useful from the Tamasic and Rajasic Puranas. So we've got the Puranas, we've got the Pancharatras, we've got the Agamas, we've got the Smritis, we've got all these scriptures, and all of these scriptures they've taken different quotes from all these different places to explain. But normally people would be familiar. Like for instance, the Manu Smriti, pretty much every Brahmin, every one of every person in the higher classes would have studied that. They would know what that's about, because all the Smritis give us the basis of Varnashram. So person in the Varnashram system, in the higher 3 classes, would know about it. So I'm not quite sure exactly what your question is, because as we go through, we're going to see in Hari Bhakti Vilas, we're going to see Puranas quoted, we're going to see Pancharatras quoted, we're going to see Smritis quoted, we're going to see all these.
There's some correlation between Pancharatra and Puranic style of worship, or is Puranic style do you see a big difference in Puranic style? Can you speak about Puranic style of worship?
Right. Well,
versus
if we
Pancharatra?
if we look at the Bhagavatam, for instance, let's look at the Bhagavad Purana. The Bhagavad Purana is a Sattvic Purana, and in the Bhagavad Purana, in the 11th canto, 27th chapter, it's called the instructions on deity worship or ritual worship by Lord Krishna. Lord Krishna himself speaks about how you should worship him in that section of the Bhagavatam. So in there's a verse where he says that there are three ways to worship me. There's the Vedic way, there's the non-Vedic way, right? And then there's a Tantric way, the non-Vedic way, and there's a mixture. So in the non-Vedic way, we use classical Sanskrit mantras, classical Sanskrit prayers to worship the deity. So that means the classical Sanskrit prayers, they come from Pancharatra. Pancharatra is not Vedic, so there's no Vedic mantras there. From Puranas, from Smritis, they might come from any source, but they're classical Sanskrit. And then the ones that come from the Vedas, we'll see also here in Hari Bhakti Vilasa, there'll also be quoted some Vedic mantras, right? Not so many, let's say, there's not so many, but there's other books like Shri Krishna Janma Abhishek Tithi, Shri Krishna Janma Tithi Vidi, right, by Rupa Goswami, that has a lot of Vedic mantras in it, a lot of Shukla Yajurvedic mantras. So it's mixed. Still, it's a mixed form because not every service which is offered to the deity in that book is done with a Vedic mantra. But there are a lot of Vedic mantras compared to Hari Bhakti Vilas. There's going to be a lot of Puranic quotations here, mantras from Puranas. And there's also going to be mantras from Pancharatra. There's going to be from all over the place. In fact, S.K. Day has written a book called Vaishnav Faith and Movement of Bengal, okay, which I have. And in that, it gives summary study of all the Goswami's books. It's like a summary of all the different Goswami's books. One of them is Hari Bhakti Vilas. In there, what he's done is he's traced out all the quotations in Hari Bhakti Vilas from where they're from. So I could scan that part, and I could show you how many times Gopal Bhatta and Sanatana Goswami have quoted from Kramadipika, which is a book by the Nimbarkacharya Keshava Kashmiri, right? Which is mostly about the worship of Lord Krishna with the Gopal mantra. That's why it's a very important book in Hari Bhakti Vilas. In fact, the perfection of the Purascharana, the perfection of the mantra of giving an initiation, the initiation itself, and the worship of the deity in Hari Bhakti Vilas, all come from Kramadipika. So Gaudiya initiation, Gaudiya how to perfect the mantra, the Gopal mantra, and how to worship the deity is coming from the Nimbarkas scripture, Kramadipika. So you can look and you can see and you can compare how many quotes he took from Kramadipika, how many quotes he took from Puranas, how many quotes he took from Pancharatra directly, meaning the Pancharatra Samhitas and things, how many he took from the Vedas, how many he took from the Puranas and from the Smritis. It's all given there. So if you're interested, we can scan that and let you know all the different quotes from Hari Bhakti Vilas, because somebody's already done that research. Okay, so
can I ask just a real quick question?
Sure, go ahead.
The Keshava Kashmiri from Nimbarka Sampradaya, is that the Keshava Kashmiri, the same that Lord Chaitanya defeated?
Yeah, it's interesting. Yes, that is supposed to be the same person that supposedly was going to in Chaitanya Charitamrita, there's a story. It may also be in Chaitanya Bhagavad, I don't know. But in Chaitanya Charitamrita, there's a story that Keshava Kashmiri was going to debate Sri Chaitanya or Nimai Pandit before he took initiation. When when Lord Chaitanya was young, because he was born under a neem tree, was called Nimai, and he was a great Sanskrit pundit, and he had a school where he taught Sanskrit grammar, and at that time he was called Nimai Pandit. So he was a pundit, and he was born under a neem tree, so he was called Nimai Pandit. So Nimai Pandit was going to debate with this Keshava Kashmiri, but then at the last moment, the goddess Saraswati came in the dream of Keshava Kashmiri, and he decided to back out of the discussion or something like that. He admitted defeat or something like that, whatever it is. According to Chaitanya Charitamrita, there's a story about that. So yes, supposed to be the same person. However, that may be a little problematic history-wise, because we know when Lord Chaitanya was born, we know when Lord Chaitanya disappeared from this world, and there are records also of Keshava Kashmiri. The dates don't seem to coincide, but we could do some more research on that. I haven't really gone into a lot of detail about that, but my understanding, and I could be wrong, is that Keshava Kashmiri, the Keshava Kashmiri that is the Nimbarkacharya who wrote Pramadipika, did not live at the exact time of Chaitanya. So two things that could have happened there. One is it could be a different person, as you say, right? It could be a different person, or it could be the same person. So it could be a different person, also called Keshava Kashmiri. Or it could be that Krishnadas Kaviraj has decided to show the greatness of Lord Chaitanya, that Lord Chaitanya defeated people from all these different sampradayas. Because you think about it, okay? This is a common thing in hagiographies, okay? The word hagiography means the life of saints. So it's a type of writing style called hagiography, right? And normally in hagiographies, and I'm being totally objective here, I want to just say that even with other acharyas of like Madhvacharya and Ramanujacharya and all the different persons, even for instance Shankaracharya, right? There are four different lives of Shankaracharya. So if somebody says to you, okay, this happened in the life of Shankaracharya, yeah, maybe in one version it happened. The same thing with the Bible, even the life of Jesus. We can see that there are different gospels, and the same exact pastime of Jesus is told in slightly different ways by different ones of his disciples. So we might even see this today. People tell the story of Prabhupada's life, even different things that happen, and then one person will remember it slightly differently, and another person will remember it slightly differently. So it's not. When we look at a lot of times in the life of saints, there's a tendency by the person who's writing it to try to glorify the saint, and obviously the person wants to show all the amazing things that the saint did, and not to show any mistake that the saint made, or that he was defeated in some debate or anything like that. So you want to show that the saint defeated everybody else, right? So if you read Shankara's life, he defeated everybody with his philosophy, and if you read Buddha's life, he defeated everybody with his philosophy. And so it may be that some of this is exaggeration, or not, we don't know. But the life of saints, sometimes when we look into the historical details, if there's historical evidence of a person's life, then sometimes it contradicts things that are written in the lives that are written by their followers. Okay, so I'm not saying that I'm just saying if you read there are many books which are written. There's Chaitanya Bhagavat, there's Chaitanya Charitamrita, there's Chaitanya Mangala. There's many books about Lord Chaitanya's life. So one would have to read all of those books and see if all those books say exactly the same thing about the same incidents. See, maybe they don't, So that's the point. So we don't know exactly. Commonly, it's accepted that this person, Keshava Kashmiri, is the same person who wrote Kramadipika and who was an Nimbarkacharya, but we don't know. You know, if we start to look at some things from a historical point of view, sometimes things become problematic for people who have faith in a particular story of like, for instance, I'll give you an example in the Shri Vaishnava Sampradaya. There's a story that Ramanuja disobeyed his guru and he climbed up the Gopuram, and after receiving the knowledge of the esoteric meaning of the mantra, he got up and he told everybody the Om Namo Narayana mantra. He told everyone out loud, even though his guru told him not to do that. There's a story like that. Even Prabhupada tells that story. Okay, that's accepted by some people in the Shri Vaishnava Sampradaya, but some people don't accept it. Some people don't accept that he did that. Some people do accept it. If you go to that temple and you look up on the Gopuram, there's a big sign. Ramanuja stood here and told everybody the mantra. So obviously the people who put that sign there believe that, but there are other people who don't. It's not a required element of faith in Sri Vaishnavism to accept that story. There are some people who just don't accept it. And the reason for that comes down to different sects in the Sampradaya that believe certain things. In Gaudiya Vaishnavism, you have a similar thing. For instance, if you look in Chaitanya Charitamrita, you never see it actually said that that Sri Chaitanya chanted the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra out loud. You'll see that they chanted Gopal Govinda Ram Sri Madhusudan. They chanted different names of the Lord, but you'll never see. I dare anybody look in the Veda base and see in the actual texts of Chaitanya Charitamrita or the actual texts of these other books written about Sri Chaitanya, where he actually said the whole Hare Krishna Maha Mantra out loud. Now, some people think that's crazy. Well, how can you say that? But that's a fact. If you look at the text, there is no text there where he says the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra out loud. So, in fact, there is a sect of Gaudiyas who don't believe in chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra out loud. They only chant it japa. They only chant it softly or in the mind. They don't chant it out loud. Still, they're still Gaudiya Vaishnavas. They still follow Sri Chaitanya. They still worship Gaunitai. They still do their Gaudiyas. But they're a different sect, and they have a different interpretation of some very important feature of his life, which all Gaudiya Vaishnavas would think this is a very important feature of his life, that he chanted Hare Krishna out loud with Naga Sankirtan through Navadvip, and they were all chanting Hare Krishna. But that particular sect doesn't believe that. They don't believe that. So they'll say, look in the books, there's no evidence, never says he chanted out loud this mantra. So the thing is, when there are certain things that many of these things we have to take on faith, and people have different faiths. So there might be different sects in the Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya or in any Sampradaya, Shri Sampradaya, Nimbarka Sampradaya, other Sampradayas. They have different sects, and they've come to have some slight disagreements on certain doctrines. And therefore, when they have that disagreement on the doctrine, it affects their understanding of the life of the Acharya that started that Sampradaya. So we don't know. Getting back to, I'm sorry we went off in such a tangent here, but the point is that we don't know exactly if that Keshava Kashmiri was the same Keshava Kashmiri. There is evidence, there's other evidence that person lived at another time. So therefore we can say that was another Keshava Kashmiri. We have similar things even in the Puranas. When we say the Sankalpa, we say Sweta Varaha Kalpe. We are living in the Kalpa of the white Varaha, the white boar incarnation. Right now, we're supposed to be living in the Kalpa or the age. Kalpa is a bigger age than just a Kali Yuga, of the white boar incarnation. But if we look in the scriptures, it describes a red boar incarnation. So is there a white boar or a red boar, or are there two different boars, one white and one red, that came at different times? So many times there'll be also there's a doctrine basically that says a statement that says Kalpa Beta, that maybe this happened in a different time period, because in the Vedic civilization the understanding is that time is cyclical. It goes round and round again, like the seasons. So we have the seasons. So we have spring, summer, fall, and winter, right? Autumn and winter. So, and then after winter, again, spring comes. So Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is an incarnation. He appeared at a particular time in a particular yuga, but he's going to appear again, and he's appeared before. Similarly, this Varaha incarnation, the boar incarnation of the Lord, also appeared at a certain time, but is going to appear again in another time. So one time the boar might come as red, and one time the boar might come as white. Similarly, Lord Chaitanya might come in one time and do a certain thing, and he might come in another time and do a slightly different thing. So when we evaluate scripture, we're more, in my opinion, more importantly, we're looking for the doctrinal differences. We're looking for the differences in philosophy and theology, rather than looking at the differences in the details. So there might be some detail, like there's a red boar or a white boar incarnation, and we can just simply say that these are at different times. So we can also say, if somebody says to us, well, the Keshava Kashmiri lived at a different time. The Nimbarkacharya who wrote, he lived at a different time. He couldn't possibly have met Sri Chaitanya. Then we can say, well, Keshava is a very common name, right, for Vaishnavas. So therefore, this Keshava lived at a different time. You know, this other Keshava, which was supposed to have a debate with Lord Chaitanya, he lived at that time, at the same time. Obviously, Sri Chaitanya, if he had a debate, or if he was going to have a debate with a person, that person must have been alive. So we don't know. We don't really know. It's assumed. It will be assumed, I guess, by Gaudiya Vaishnavas that it's not the same person. If that person, we don't know if any Gaudiya Acharya has said that it is the same person. If a Gaudiya Acharya has said it's the same person, it's Keshava Kashmiri, the one who wrote Pramadipika, then we have to. Then it means Gaudiya Vaishnavas, or at least that Acharya, believes that Keshava Kashmiri lived at the same time as Lord Chaitanya. Right? We have, for instance, we have a book by Bhaktivinoda Thakur called Navadvip Dham Mahatmyam. In that book, it said that the different acharyas appeared in came to Navadvip or visited Navadvip, and they had a vision of Sri Chaitanya at that time. Now, Ramanuja and Madhva lived 1,000 years before, 1,800 years before now, which means that they lived 500 or at least 300 years, Madhva, 300 or 400 years before Sri Chaitanya, right? So some people accept some people think of that book as being an analogy and simply poetic license that Bhaktivinoda wrote in that way to explain how the different philosophies of the different sampradayas are all put together by Lord Chaitanya in one sampradaya. He took two aspects of each of the four sampradayas, and he created this wonderful sampradaya that has all of the best aspects of all the others, right? So that was his purpose in writing that book. And so some people see it like that. Some people say that that's just a poetic license, that he said like that. And other people say, no, this is a historical, a real incident that happened, that these acharyas came to Navadvip, and Lord Chaitanya appeared before them, even though he hadn't appeared yet, right, on this world. He somehow appeared in their meditation or in trance, or just appeared before them and instructed them. So it really depends upon Personally, I don't have a problem. If people want to believe that actually happened, and that was that he appeared before them and he spoke those words and everything, that's fine. That's just faith that happened. And if people want to believe that Bhaktivinoda Thakur is a great acharya and Bhaktivinoda Thakur wrote, and it was poetic license, and it was a literary way of getting his point across, that Lord Chaitanya made this incredible sampradaya, which incorporates all the best parts of the other sampradayas. If that was his purpose, and he simply wove it into a story to make people understand it more easily, right? That's also fine. I have no problem with either way. If people have faith in that way or in that way, that's not the point. The real point of the story, that story, is to understand the different doctrines and practices that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu incorporated into his sampradaya, and how he took the best things from those four sampradayas and made, a wonderful sampradaya that incorporates all those eight main qualities, the two from each sampradaya. That's to me the most important part of that story. Whether it was historically true or not, I personally don't care. Other people may care, and they may think, no, it has to be, to me, it's historical, and therefore I have to believe it that it's historical. It's not the way I think. But so you can have faith in either way, and I don't criticize people for having faith in either way.
Can I just interject with something? I was going to say, I know that we're really deviating from Hari Bhakti Vilasa, but I was going to say that I really appreciate you saying this, because some years ago I had a real problem. One devotee had just come back from India. He is exposed to some other sampradayas, and he told me that he was full of doubts because they had no faith in Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. There was the Supreme Personality of Godhead. They said that he was just a saint, a great saint, but not the Personality of Godhead. And that really, really disturbed me actually so much. I told the guy, the devotee, even though we were friends, I said, "You just get out of it," because it really, really disturbed me. And since then, I kind of mellowed out a little bit because I've been exposed to other ideas. I have full faith in Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as a Personality of Godhead. But now if I hear that other people have other opinions, other Vaishnavas, it doesn't disturb me because I know, people have other opinions, so that's okay.
Sure.
So
And the thing is,
I appreciate you saying this.
The thing is, there are Shri Vaishnavas in Shri Vaishnavism. There are the Alwars, and the Alwars are all supposed to be incarnations of different weapons and the garland, the Shrivats, different paraphernalia of the Lord. They're in Vaikuntha. They're all incarnations of those things, right? So, but there are Shri Vaishnavas. And I can introduce there are people who are actually acharyas in the Sri Vaishnava Sampradaya who don't believe that that's literally true. They say, no, that's just an analogy that people say. That's just something that people say. Yeah. So it's not required to believe in that literally. In that being true literally in the Sri Sampradaya. Yeah, if you study the history of the Gaudiya Sampradaya, you'll see that if you study the history of it, I'm saying don't study the doctrines and the thing, just if you study historically, you may come up with some things which test your faith, that you may have had some faith, because it seems like that there were three important personalities in the beginning. There was Lord Chaitanya, there was Nityananda, and there was Advaita. And these personalities, at a certain point in the history, the idea was there were followers of each one of them, and somehow or other, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu became Mahaprabhu, and the others are Prabhus. He became more important in the history of Gaudiya Vaishnavism at a certain point. Now, obviously, theologically, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is the most important of the Panchatattva. right? He's Krishna himself, right? Radha Krishna Nahayana. So, but there are different doctrines about that have come up. For instance, the whole thing about the Sakya Ras and the Madhurya Ras, that was a doctrinal dispute within Gaudiya Vaishnavism that was only worked out after the first generation of Mahaprabhu's disciples. If you read the history of Gaudiya Vaishnavism, Gaudiya Vaishnavism grew up in different places, in basically three places: in Bengal, in Vrindavan, and in Jagannath Puri, in Orissa. So there were these three different places where it grew up, and it grew up slightly differently in each place. So when the Bengali devotees who were the followers of Nityananda and Haridas, and who were emphasizing the Sakya Ras, when they met the devotees from Vrindavan who were all followers of the Goswamis who were preaching Madhurya Ras, they got together and they said, "Oh, wait a minute, you're preaching Sakya Ras and we're preaching Madhurya Ras. We have to reconcile these two things, right? Because either the whole Sampradaya preaches Madhurya Ras, or the whole Sampradaya, if it's one Sampradaya, it should preach one message." So there was a festival called the Festival of Khetari, where was sort of like the first Mayapur festival, but it was in a place called Khetari. And Janava Thakurani, the wife of Lord Nityananda, who was the head of the Gaudiya Vaishnavas, she came, and then you had Srinivas, Narottam, and Shamananda. In that was the next generation after the Goswamis, right? Who came, and they discussed it. They discussed whether Shakti Ras was a higher rasa, or Madhurya Rasa was a higher rasa, and they discussed how to integrate those doctrines. And that was all worked out by them at that time. So historically, that was the way it happened. But there's no question. Today there's no question. There's so many scriptures written about Madhurya Ras being higher than Sakya Ras, right? So, but still, if you look historically, there was an evolution. There was an evolution in Bengal. Bengal was, from Lord Nityananda, when he went there, he was preaching Sakya Ras. Nityananda and the 12 Gopals, were his disciples, and they were preaching Sakya Ras. So, okay, so when we look at things historically, the same thing we're talking about this thing about Chaitanya Mahaprabhu being an avatara. Okay, first of all, let me just say something. There's different types of avatars. Even if we look in the Bhagavatam, right? Buddha is described. There are certain avatars which are described. I think in the first canto, third chapter, there are 24. I believe there's 24 different. There's a list of avatars. Krishna's included, Rama's included, Narasimha's included. There's a lot of those sort of avatars. But Narada is also an avatar. He's considered an avatar. What kind of avatar is he? He's not a Vishnu type of avatar, right? Narada is a jiva. He's a jivatman, but he's also considered an avatar there, right? So he's what we call an Amsa avatar, or you might know it as a Shakti avatar. He is an avatar that has had the Shakti. He's been given a special power by the Lord. What is the power that Narada has? He has the power of bhakti. He has the power to give bhakti to Prahlad, to Dhruva, throughout the Bhagavatam. He has the power to give bhakti. So he becomes the guru of these different people, even Valmiki. He's becoming the guru of these people and giving them bhakti and teaching them bhakti. So he's a Shakti-avesh avatar, and the Shakti that he has is the Bhakti Shakti, the Shakti, the power of devotion. So he's a Shakti-avesh avatar, like that. So whether somebody's a Shakti-avesh avatar or whether there's a Vishnu type of avatar, in the Bhagavatam, it doesn't make a distinction in that chapter. It doesn't say, here are the ones that are jivas and here are the ones that are Vishnu tattvas. So in different sampradayas, they have different concepts of that even. In the Madhva Sampradaya, Balarama is a jiva. You ask any Madhva, any follower of Madhvacharya, according to Madhvacharya Sampradaya, they say Balarama is a jiva. Sri Vaishnavas, Gaudiya Vaishnavas, other Vaishnavas will say Balarama is Vishnu. he is an avatar of Vishnu, right? He's Vishnu Tattva, right? But the Madhvas will say, no, he's not Vishnu Tattva, he's a jiva. They'll say he's a jiva. So there are different doctrines and different theologies in the different sampradayas, and the people who follow the sampradayas, they have faith in those doctrines. So there are, I can tell you, there are Shri Vaishnavas who do not believe in that literally the Alvars were literally incarnations of the Lord's paraphernalia in Vaikuntha. And there are also, I don't know, in Madhva Sampradaya if there's anybody who believes that Balaram is not a jiva, because mostly they do, like that. So first thing we can say is that in every Sampradaya there, Ramanuja is supposed to be an incarnation of Anantashesha. Anantashesha means Balarama, right? Ramanuja means the younger brother of Rama. It means Lakshmana. That's Balarama, right? So Sri Vaishnavas in general consider Ramanuja to be an incarnation of Balarama, Lakshmana, Ananta. In the Vallabha Sampradaya, Vallabha, who Lord Chaitanya criticized Vallabha. But Vallabhacharya, for the Vallabhacharyans, the people who follow Vallabhacharya, he's supposed to be an incarnation of Krishna's face. He's called Mukhya Avatar. According to Vallabhas, he's an incarnation of Krishna's face. He's an incarnation of Krishna, according to the Vallabha Sampradaya. Madhva is, according to the Madhva Sampradaya, an incarnation of Bhima, Vayu, Bhima, and Hanuman. Vayu, Hanuman, and Bhima. In Kali Yuga, he becomes Madhva. So all of these, the Nimbarka Sampradaya, that Nimbarkacharya is the incarnation of the Sudarshana chakra of the Lord. So every sampradaya, they're attributing avatarship to certain people in their sampradaya, and it may be full Vishnu Tattva avatarship or just Jiva Tattva Shaktivesh avatarship. So there are many acharyas and many saints who are being told are either Vishnu Tattva or even you have the Swami Narayan Sampradaya, right, which is an offshoot of the Ramanuja Sampradaya. They say Swami Narayan is God. They say he's an incarnation of Vishnu Tattva. He's Vishnu, like that. So you find that in many sampradayas. Okay, so the people in that sampradaya, they have full faith in that. That's no problem. Okay, so what can we all commonly agree? We can all commonly agree that Ramanuja was a great saint. We can agree that Madhva was a great saint. We can agree that Nimbarka was a great saint. We can agree that Vallabha was a great saint, even though Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in Chaitanya Charitamrita criticizes him for certain things, right? We can still agree that Vallabha was a great saint, a great Vaishnava. These were all great Vaishnavas. Similarly, we can also all agree, every sampradaya can agree that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was a great saint. Everybody can agree with that. The people in the Gaudiya Sampradaya are going to think he's more than a great saint. The people in the Ramanuja Sampradaya think that Ramanuja is maybe more than a great saint. The people in the Madhva Sampradaya think that Madhva is maybe more than a great saint. And the people in the Vallabha Sampradaya, they think that Vallabha and Nimbarka, in their Sampradayas, they think that they are more than great saints. Okay, so everybody in their own Sampradayas, they have more respect and they have more faith in their acharyas and their people in their lineages. So we just have to understand that in each and every lineage they put more. Now, if we're going to get together and if we're going to talk to each other, it doesn't seem useful. It doesn't seem useful to point out things that are sectarian about one sect or another, which are different from the other sect. I mean, obviously, if you're preaching in a particular sect and you preach against the doctrines, the theology of that sect, that's not going to be appreciated. So when people from different sects get together, they tend to talk about things which they have in common, rather than talking in ways that they have in common, rather than talking in ways that divide them. Of course, there's a system of debate also, where people debate the philosophy and the theology. the different points between the sampradayas. That's there too. And we see that also in the lives of all the saints, like Lord Chaitanya. You'll see that he was a pundit and he defeated many people in his, Ramanuja also defeated people. All the different acharyas, when they were preaching, they defeated people. But, as far as I'm concerned, right, my personal preference is not to defeat other people who are other Vaishnavas. It's not important for me if people have a slightly different faith than me, but if philosophically we're basically all the same, why should I object to them having slightly different faith, right? Whereas all the Vaishnavacharyas agree, right, that they all disagree with Shankara. They all disagree with the Mayavadis. They all disagree with the Advaitins. They all disagree with the Buddhists, right? So amongst Vaishnavas, it's important that we see what we have in common and not see what divides us, right? Because these, more often than not, it's a small thing that divides us. Now, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave us Shikshastakam. He gave eight wonderful verses, which I know many Shri Vaishnavas who love to chant those verses, who love the meanings of those verses, and who are completely in accordance with the meaning of those verses, and who therefore praise Shri Chaitanya to the hilt for those verses. And I have many Shri Vaishnava friends who are like that. Do they think Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Vishnu or not Vishnu? I don't know. I've never asked that question to a lot of people. Most probably they don't. They think of him as a great saint. The doctrines that he spoke of in his Shikshastika are important to them. No matter what sampradaya he comes in, they're important and they're real and people love those. So really, does it change the doctrine does it change the doctrine, the philosophy? Does it change the philosophy? If there's a slight theological difference, some people say he's a Shaktivesh avatar, some people say he's a Vishnu Tattva avatar. That's a slight theological difference, but it doesn't change the philosophy. The philosophy is the same. The philosophy of the Shikshastika is exactly the same. A theological difference, like in the Gaudiya Sampradaya, like I said, some people believe you shouldn't chant Hare Krishna out loud. Some people believe that you should. That's a theological difference. That's not a philosophical difference. The people who chant Nitai Gaur Radhe Shyam Japa Hare Krishna Hare Ram, those people in the Gaudiya Sampradaya worship Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. They worship Radha Krishna. They're Gaudiya Vaishnavas. They follow the Goswamis. They chant Hare Krishna. They just don't chant it out loud. They believe only chanting it softly or in the mind. That's the only, well, as far as I know, that's basically the difference. That's the basic difference that they have. So it's not, some people will be totally offended by that. People will be offended like that. Why? I went to see OBL Kapoor, who is Prabhupada's godbrother, many times. And he was a member of the Gaudiya Math. He's a disciple of Bhakti Siddhantas. But at the end of his life, he retired to one of those, to an ashram right next to, in Vrindavan, right next to Krishna Balaram temple, of those people, Gauranga Das Babaji people, who followed Nitai Gaur Radhe Shyam Japa Hare Krishna Hare Ram. So I went with Vyasaki one time and we discussed it with him, and he said, no, you can't show me in Chaitanya Charitamrita where it ever says, or any of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's biography, where he chanted it out loud. And Vyasaki took an exception to that and was very upset with that, and started talking to him about the meaning of certain Bengali words in Chaitanya Charitamrita, and he had a different idea. He just had a different view of it. Vyasaki had a different view of it, and they had just different views on it. Personally, it didn't make didn't have a problem with it myself. In other words, if you want to believe it like this, if you want to believe it like that, everybody's chanting Hare Krishna. Everybody's worshiping Lord Chaitanya. Everybody's worshiping Radha Krishna. Everybody's worshiping Gaura. So the fact that there's some slight difference in the practice or in the theology didn't, and obviously I would have a preference for one over the other. I don't see personally why you couldn't chant it out loud. But that's just one way to do it. That's one way. One sect is like that. So it's very similar. People say that to me all the time, and I'll say, well, look at the Ramanuja Sampradaya. There's two sections to it. Here we're talking about, to bring it back to Hari Bhakti Vilasa, we're talking about Vedika Sanjaya, we're talking about Tantric Sanjaya, we're talking about gurus in general giving initiation to disciples and giving different mantras to them and teaching them in different ways. Maybe they give the same mantra and they teach the practice of the meditation and the use of that mantra in slightly different ways to different disciples, right? The same thing with the Vedika Sanjaya. There are different Brahmins throughout India, and they're doing it in a slightly different way. Does it mean one way is wrong and the other way is right? Sometimes we can actually say that a practice is wrong. Sometimes we can actually say that a practice is wrong. Like I was just saying about Achamana standing is wrong. Achamana without tilak is wrong, okay? There's a rule, there's a small rule like that. But actually we see in reality you have to say Achamana, you have to do Achamana before you put on tilak. It's a practicality. So you can't say that it's wrong in all circumstances. So it may generally be wrong, but it's not wrong in all circumstances. So similarly with these other things like that, we don't know exactly. There are different opinions amongst different acharyas sometimes, that even in the same sampradaya, even in the same sect, they'll have slightly different opinions, and we have to reconcile those opinions. Or we choose one or the other. Or we try to first of all, the best thing is to try to reconcile them. If the two opinions can be reconciled, that's the best thing. If they can't be reconciled, then you simply have to say one opinion is more important than the other. Like for instance, Jiva Goswami wrote Gopal Champu. In Jiva Goswami's Gopal Champu, Radha and Krishna get married. There's a marriage of Radha and Krishna, right? Now, if you have a marriage of Radha and Krishna, if Radha and Krishna are married, then there is no such thing as Parakiya Bhava between them. Because Parakiya Bhava is unmarried love. It is between two persons that are not married to each other. They may be married to other people, but they're not married to each other. People who are married to each other cannot experience Parakiya Bhava, because Parakiya means love of another, not of your own. Swakiya means love of your own wife, of your own husband. So there cannot be any Parakiya Bhava between Radha and Krishna if they're married. Yet Jiva Goswami, arguably the greatest theologian of the Goswamis, right, wrote Gopal Champu, and in that book he says they got married. So does that mean that the Gaudiya Sampradaya has to throw out all the information about Parakiya Bhava? No, it doesn't mean that. It means that we have to, most people will say, well, he wrote that, and the reason he wrote that was because some of his disciples were prudish and didn't think that it was proper that Radha and Krishna could have a conjugal relationship without actually being married. I dare say 75 years ago or 100 years ago, if you told people, they would, it's scandalous. It's scandalous that Radha and Krishna have some conjugal relationship without actually being married, right? So some disciples of Jiva Goswami will like that. So he wrote something like that. So people will say, well, you can't take that as the absolute truth. He wrote it like that to pacify certain people. Just like we have the Goswamis also. Some people used to come and try and debate the Goswamis. They wanted to debate the Goswamis. The Goswamis didn't care. They didn't want to debate these guys. There's some guy, he wants to debate me, and his idea is to defeat me and then just put another notch on his belt, that I defeated this Rupa Goswami. So they just said, okay, here, I'll write a piece of paper that I am defeated. Here, take it. I'm not going to waste my time debating this person, because all he wants to do is, he's not interested in the absolute truth. The person is not interested in the truth. He's only interested in arguing and making a point, making his point like that. Sometimes you meet people like that. They're just interested in arguing. They're not interested in understanding the absolute truth. There's different types of argument, right? There's Vitanda, there's Jalpa, there's There's different. They're all described, and a proper argument, the proper idea of argumentation or discussion, is to come to a conclusion that illuminates us, that helps us, and so therefore, that's the best type of discussion, the best type of argument is where we actually learn something. So the Goswamis, a lot of times they just say, okay, I'm going to write a piece of paper. You defeated me. Now you can show this to all the people back home. Go back to your village and show people you defeated the great Acharya Rupa Goswami, and you can be happy like that. So that's because he understood that the guys had a wrong concept like that. So what's the point? What is the point of defeating other Vaishnavas and making them upset over something which doesn't make much difference to them, or to, maybe it makes a lot of difference to you. So if it makes so much difference to you, then you can't associate with other people in other sampradayas, or even within your own sampradaya. If you get so upset, then you have to stick only with your own little sectarian group, right? So you have to stay within ISKCON, or you have to stay within the Gaudiya Math, or you have to stay within the Gauranga Babaji group, or in Sri Vaishnavas you have to stay with the Wadagalais or stay with the Tengalais. That's up to you. That's up to each individual person. Some people are more broad-minded and some people are more narrow-minded. That's fine. And you can't, I'm not criticizing people who are, when I say narrow-minded, I should say one-minded or one-pointed in their devotion. Let's say they have a one-pointed devotion. Somebody has a one-pointed devotion. An example of that would be, for instance, Rupa Goswami, Sanatana Goswami were brothers. They had another brother. They had another brother called Anupama, and they tried to get him to chant Hare Krishna. And after a few days, he said to them, you know what? I'm really not getting into this chanting of Hare Krishna. I really prefer to chant Rama. My worshipful Lord is Rama. I want to chant Rama. I want to be with Rama. So he was into Rama. They couldn't convert him. He was even there was his brother. He was their brother. They couldn't convert him. So why try? Why try? Is it our purpose as Gaudiya Vaishnavas to make everybody a Gaudiya Vaishnava? Or is it our purpose of Sri Vaishnavas to make everybody a Sri Vaishnava? No, not necessarily, right? Somebody may be attracted to one philosophy, one theology, one practice, or one or another. So some people, I like that. Anyway, so I didn't want to go on too long about that, but somehow I did. And you don't have to agree with me or not. That's just the way I feel. And but we're going to find in Hari Bhakti Vilas, because it's got so many different quotations from different scriptures, sometimes we'll see that there's some contradictions. And so somebody will quote Hari Bhakti Vilas and it says that you have to do it like this. And somebody will quote Hari Bhakti Vilas and it says you can do it like that. And then somebody will say, well, if both of them are there, then you can do either. And other people will say, no, I prefer to emphasize this one. And that one is actually an inferior instruction. The other way, well, there's a mistake there. So all these things are according to faith. Sometimes we can point out logically and shastrically that there might be a defect or a mistake. But in general, there's a lot of options that are given. There are different options that are given. So there's many Vedic scriptures. There's many scriptures of all the different sampradayas. And they have different options. Excuse me. So let's continue on with Hari Bhakti Vilas, and but it's a very interesting discussion. It's a very interesting discussion. If you like, what I'll do is I'll try to find out if there's any opinions, different opinions about whether that is the same Keshava Kashmiri who wrote Kramadipika. We can look it up.
I was going to say one last thing, and that's I appreciate. It was actually kind of a minor question I was asking about Kashmiri, but thank you for going into the explanation about how people have different opinions about things, chapters, etc., and we have to be a little bit tolerant of other people's method of devotion. So I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, some things you shouldn't be tolerant of. You know, there are, you know, Prabhupada used to say, there's a saying by Ramakrishna, who's a famous, you know, Advaitin. Basically, he's an Advaitin. He's, you know, and they say Yadamat Tadapat. Whatever you think, that's okay. You know, I'm not trying to say that whatever people think, whatever opinions are out there, whatever practices are out there, we have to say, oh, that's okay. If you have faith in that, do that. We don't have to say that. Like if somebody says, oh, you know, I believe in killing animals and eating their meat and everything like that, and we don't accept that. We don't think that that's a good thing. That's not a good thing, like that. So absolutely, there are things which we consider to be abhorrent to us. So everything is not okay. Everything is not okay, but within the family of Vaishnavas, first of all, within your own lineage, right, within your own sampradaya, you know, there should be some tolerance of some diverse views. Secondly, the tendency is with religion is you're more tolerant of the person who has a different religion than you are of the people in your own sect. Normally, that's what, or in a sect which is very close to you, right? You'll find lots of ISKCON devotees going and having friends who are Shri Vaishnavas and Madhvas and different people, you know, like that. But when it comes to people in another sect of Gaudiya, they won't associate with people like that because it's too close. Yeah. So anyway, that's normally what happens, is you have made like that. Okay, so anyway, let's continue on with this. We were at 309 talking about Vedika Sanjaya. So there's a comment here, rituals based on the Vedas. There's a comment here from a sloka here from Kuma Purana, another one from Manusmriti, or a few from 2.5 from Manusmriti, or 3 from Manusmriti. So it says, here's what it says. One should sit down on a mat of kusha grass, right? So that's a pure mat of kusha grass, the tips of which should be facing east. So when they make the kusha grass mats, you'll see that they make them in such a way that the tips are on one side, so that the tips should be facing east. And with a controlled mind, perform pranayama, which means control of the breath, before engaging in meditation and performing other rituals. Okay, so what are some of the other rituals involved here? If we look in the Sanskrit, so we see here that from the Kuma Purana, it says you should do pranayama 3 times. Right, and meditate when it says you should do that for doing Sanjia, right? And darbishu, the word darba means kusha. Okay, so continuing down here, so it says even whether you're a Vaishnava or, we'll continue on with this. This is a statement of the Vedas. Now it says here, because the Brahmanas are worshippers of Gayatri, and Gayatri is considered a goddess. The mantra itself personified as a goddess called Gayatri, right? The word Gaya, tree, means that which is sung 3 times a day. Gaya means to sing. and Shri means 3 times. So Gayatri means sung 3 times a day. The mother of the Vedas. So Gayatri, the Gayatri Mantra is considered to be the essence or the mother of the Vedas, right? They are neither considered to be the followers of Shiva or Vishnu. They are the followers of the Lord's energy. Okay, so this is a part of a quotation from Manusmriti. So Manusmriti says here, Brahmanaha Shaktikaha Sarve. All Brahmanas, right? Na Shaiva, na cha Vaishnava. So Brahmanas, according to Manu, right? And you can accept this or you cannot accept this, but Manu says all Brahmanas are not Vaishnavas and they're not Shaivites, but they are Shaktites. They are worshippers of Shakti, of the energy, right? Meaning Devi, right? Upasate Devim Gayatrim. They worship Devi Gayatri, Veda Mataram, the mother of the Vedas, right? Yacha Sanjia Jagat Sutir, right? And it goes on, right? Okay. So what does it say? It says, because the Brahmanas are the worshippers of Gayatri, the mother of the Vedas, they are neither considered to be the followers of Shiva nor Vishnu. They are the followers of the Lord's energy, or Devi, or Prakriti, the Lord's energy. Sanjia, Shakti. Sanjia is she from whom the whole universe has emanated, right? So in fact, Shakti, another name from this is Prakriti. Prakriti is the Lord's energy. And what does Krishna say in Bhagavad Gita? He says in the 7th chapter, he says, Mumir aponalo vayu kamanaburiyevacha ahankara itiyame bina prakritiya. Bina prakritiya. Astada, prakriti. The word prakriti is used. I am, Krishna says, I am these different elements, earth, water, fire, air, ether, mind, intelligence, ego. These 8 elements are my bina, my separated energy. My separated energy. And so the whole universe has come from that separated energy, has been created out of Prakriti. And Prakriti, Sanjia, Gayatri, these are all names for Shakti, for the Shakti of the Lord. Of course, he has many different Shaktis. And so his Shaktis, Lord Krishna's Shaktis, his powers, right, create the universe. So the universe, the material universe, is considered personified as a goddess. Similarly, the Gayatri Mantra is personified as a goddess, right? So she's called Sanjia, Savitri, Gayatri, Saraswati. Okay. Saraswati has 2 meanings, but anyway, we'll go into that later. So she is transcendental, pure, born of the 3 truths. The 3 truths. I'm guessing we were discussing this before. 3 truths, 1 truth from each part of the Veda, Rig, Yajus, and Sama Veda. So, and the undivided spiritual energy. Learned persons should meditate on Gayatri as situated within the sun. Yes, Gayatri as situated within the sun. Surya Narayana is there, is the controller of Gayatri. The mantra itself means the god, the sun god, Surya Narayana. A Brahmana should always sit facing east when performing the Sanjia and other rituals. So normally, the best direction to face, the most auspicious direction to face is east. Now, when it says here, he should always sit facing east, that isn't true. That isn't true. First of all, this is coming from Manusmriti. Now, if you read the whole Manusmriti, you'll read that you don't always sit when you do Gayatri. When you chant the Gayatri Mantra, you don't always sit. You have to sit at night, in the evening, at dusk. You have to sit to do the japa of Gayatri. But in the morning and at noon, you should actually stand. You're supposed to stand. So even this rule here that he's giving is contradicted in Manusmriti itself. This is a quote from Manu, but yet it's given in a general sense. In a general sense, you should sit and you should face east. But in fact, you should actually stand in the morning, and some people say at noon also. It's unclear about noon, but at least in the morning you have to stand, at the evening you have to sit. If you sit in the morning and you stand in the evening, your parent, according to Manu at least, maybe not other Shritis, but according to Manu, you lose your caste. You lose your class. You fall down from your class if you do that. That's considered to be a rule that you've broken. Okay. Now the thing is, it says sitting, right? Also, it says facing east. So facing east is also not correct for the evening. When you do the japa of Gayatri in the evening, you have to face west. Why is that? Because in the morning, the sun is coming up in the east. You always face the sun because, as I said here, Gayatri or Surya Narayana is there within the sun. So because Surya Narayana is there within the sun, we face him when we do the japa. So we do japa of Gayatri Mantra facing east in the morning because the sun's rising in that way, and west in the evening because the sun is going down that way, right? At noontime, some people face east and some people face north, because north is the second most auspicious direction. And when we consider the sun is coming up and it's going from the east to the west, if it's going that way, we consider some people face north, some people face east at noon. So noon there's not so many rules about noon, but at least for the morning and the evening, you have to face east and in the morning and west at night. So here, this rule is actually not correct. I mean, we read it, right? And in general, it's correct. In general, it's correct to always sit facing east. It's the best direction. But there are exceptions. And the exception is at night, pretty common exception. Once a day you're facing east and once a day you're facing west. So pretty much half the time, except for if you don't count noon, you're facing one way or the other way. Okay, so continuing on, text 313 to 315. It's also said, we don't know where this is from, but maybe we could also find this in Manu, I'm not sure, that a wise person should sit down facing east and chant the Gayatri Mantra with a steady mind. And doing the pranayama is to help you steady the mind. But when we control the breath, we control our breathing, we steady the mind. Sometimes people are in a big bother, they're in a big hurry, they've just been running or exerting themselves, they're huffing and puffing, and another person will say to them, calm down, you're having a panic attack, or you've just been running, or you're out of breath, sit down, calm down, and once you calm down, then you can think straight. So it's very common that we'll say to somebody, calm down, relax, and take a few deep breaths, and then you'll be able to steady your mind. So this is what pranayama is. Pranayama is for steadying the mind, and that's why we take a few deep breaths in pranayama and we steady the mind. So here it says, you should sit down, you should face east, and you should chant Gayatri Mantra with a steady mind. So first of all, before we chant Gayatri Mantra, we have to steady the mind by doing the pranayama. Chanting a Gayatri Mantra 1,000 times is the best. Chanting 100 times is better. Now, when it says 1,000, it probably means 1,008, or when it says 100, it probably means 108. Because normally that you count those 108 or 1,008 like that. And chanting 10 times is good. So it's good if you chant 10 times. If you don't chant 10 times, it's not good. But if you at least chant 10 times, it's good. Better than that is 100 times. And better than that, the best is 1,000 times. That's enough. There are many people in India, in the gurukuls in India, kids in the gurukul. There are some gurukuls that are very, very traditional, and they say to the children, okay, you should do morning, noon, and evening, do 1,000 Gayatris each time, like that. So there are people who are still doing like that. That's a very orthodox thing to do. More often than not, we find people who today we have no time, so everybody's doing maybe 10 times, like that. Or some people, they're doing 100 times. Very few people today. There are people, but very few people are doing 1,000 times And there are some other numbers also that people do. Sometimes they do 32, 64, 28. There are different numbers, that are 108 that are described. But here it's very clear. 1,000 is the best. Middle is, this is normally we have this kanista, madhyama, and uttama. Right? Everybody knows these words. Kanista means the beginning or the lesser. Madhyama means the middle, and uttama means the best or the topmost. So the uttama is 1,000, the middle is 100, and the least is 10. So one who does this next part of it is very, very important and is quoted by a lot of people. One who does not perform the Sanjia rituals is always impure, and therefore is not qualified to perform the daily nitya. We talked about nitya, daily activities, and occasional ritualistic activities. And that particular part up here is this verse, this Sanjahino suchir asuchir nityam, right? Sanjahino, without Sanjya, right? Asuchir. Asuchir is the opposite of suchir. Suchir is pure. Asuchir is impure. Nityam, always asuchir. He's always impure, right? Anarha sarvakamasu. Sarvakamasu, whatever you do, all the different activities that you do. Yaranyat kurute kinchit natasya palam apnuyat. Natasya palam apnuyat. You will get no fruits. You will get no fruits, the palam, the fruit, if you do not do the Sanjya Vandana. Okay, so that's pretty obvious. This is talking about Vedic Sanjya Vandana. Now, once again, if you don't have a Gayatri Mantra, if you haven't been initiated, haven't got the Upadhana Samskara, don't wear the sacred thread. You are not bound to do this. This is Vedic Sanjya. Okay, so once again, one who does not perform the Sanjya rituals is always impure and therefore not qualified to perform daily and occasional ritualistic activities or nitya nayamitika karmas. Whatever such a person may do, he fails to achieve any tangible result. One who gives up the performance of Sanjya rituals and endeavors for performing other religious or ritualistic activities transverses the path to hell again and again. Just to put a nail in the coffin of that one, right? He says very clearly, and he's quoting Manusmriti here, probably Manusmriti. It says, we don't exactly know where that's from, but it's probably it's definitely from a Smriti Shastra. We could find it out. It's that particular verse that I quoted to you before. That is very, very common. Okay, so then continuing on with text 316. The qualified brahmanas of former ages. What do we mean by former ages? We mean Satyuga, or which is also called Krita Yuga, the first age, the golden age. Treta Yuga, right? Treta means the one before 3, right? Is the silver age. Dwarpara, the apara means after 2, the one after 2, the third age. Dwarpara Yuga. That is the Bronze Age, or we could say the Copper Age, right? And Kali Yuga. Kali Yuga is the last age, or the Iron Age, or the worst age in some respects, but in other respects it's also a very good age. So we're in the Kali Yuga. So in the former ages there were brahmanas, and those brahmanas, the former ages, who were peaceful by nature, self-controlled, and expert in understanding the Vedas, attained the highest destination. The highest destination means Sri Vaikuntha, Goloka, Vrindavan, right? The abode of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Krishna. By performing the Sanjia Upasana, by performing the Sanjia rituals of the whole Sanjia Vandanam, including the Gayatri Japa, right? According to the prescribed rules and regulations. And the prescribed rules and regulations come in the different Smriti Shastras, according to, and they were explained by the person who gives Upanayam to you, the father or the guru who gives the Upanayam will explain those prescribed rules and regulations. Okay, so that's all he gives. That's everything that Gopal Bhatta gives about Vedic Sanjaya. That's all he gives. And there might be a little bit more if we read the commentary by Sanatana Goswami, but basically that's it. Because why doesn't he give a whole elaboration? Again, because people who are reading this know Sanskrit. They're probably Brahmanas, right? Or Kshatriyas or Vaishyas. They're people who know Sanskrit. And therefore they already perform this and they know about it. So they all are familiar with the rules and regulations. So he doesn't have to go into a whole lot of detail. Whereas the other forms of rituals, the actual Vaishnava rituals, he does go into detail because they may be different from some of the other, what are the other Hindus are doing. But basically everybody in Hinduism understands Sandhya Vandana, and therefore he doesn't have to go into detail about that. He's assuming that if you know Sanskrit, you know about these rules and regulations. You've studied Sanskrit in this Gurukula, and therefore you're a follower of Sanatana Dharma, or what we commonly call a Hindu today. So continuing on, for text 317, we have Ata Tantric Sanjaya. So that was about Vedic Sanjaya. That was about the Vedic Sanjaya of chanting the Gayatri Japa and doing the Arghya to the sun. These are the two main acts in Vedic Sanjaya Vandanam, and meditating upon Gayatri Devi, the goddess of the mantra, and also the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Surya Narayana within the sun. So text 317 talks about the Tantric Sanjaya or the Vaishnava Sanjaya or the Pancharatric Sanjaya. Here it's going to say, after faithfully worshipping the predominating deity of one's cherished mantra, a person should offer oblations to the associates of the Lord according to the prescribed rules and regulations. Now, again, this is going to be described in detail by the acharya, by the guru, by the teacher to the student. The teacher has given the student the Gopal mantra in the second Vilasa, and he's therefore, when he gives it to him, he's going to explain to him how to use that mantra, how to meditate upon the Lord Krishna, who is the deity of that mantra, and how to offer the different oblations and different follow the different rules and regulations for that particular process of sadhana or spiritual practice. So the next verse here, and it should be understood also here that the idea is that the Vedic, if you're going to do Vedic Sanjaya, Gayatri Upadhana, Gayatri worship by Surya Arghya and Gayatri Japa, after that's finished, then you do the Pancharatric Sanjaya. So it's not that you do them together, but you do them separate. You first of all do the Gayatri Japa, right? And then after the Gayatri Japa, there's a thing called Upasthanam, where you do the Visarjanam or the valediction of Gayatri. And after doing the valediction of Gayatri, then you do the Pancharatric or the Vedic, the Tantric or the Agamic Sanjaya, the Vaishnava Sanjaya. Okay? So now, continuing on, we got a quote here from Bodhayana Smriti. Bodhayana was a great Vaishnava, he wrote a commentary on the Vedanta Sutras and things like that, which Ramanuja went to Kashmir to read. And Bodhayana is, in South India, we have Bodhayana and Apastamba are both great sages who have given their opinion on the rituals of the Yajurveda, the Krishna Yajurveda. And so it's very... Could we check if Sanatana Goswami commented on Vadika Sanjaya? Okay, I'll check that, but I'm not going to check it right now. But I will check it. If there's anything in the commentary, we can talk about it next time. I will check that. But I having read Hari Bhakti Vilasa many times before, I doubt it. I don't think that he said anything more about it. If at all, we can get some understanding of what would be the Sanjaya that would be recommended by, because remember, Sanatana Goswami, Gopal Bhatta Goswami, and few of the Goswamis were Brahmins. Rupa Goswami and Sanatana Goswami were what we call GSBs, or Gauda Saraswata Brahmins, who migrated from South India, from Karnataka, went to Kashmir, and then ended up in a lot of places in India. So these Gauda Saraswat Brahmins, the Brahmins who are GSBs, they're called. In this case, Rupa Goswami and Sanatana Goswami were most likely Sukla Yajurveda Brahmins, because in that area in northern India and northern central India, most of the Brahmins are Sukla Yajurvedic Brahmins, and also because when we look at Rupa Goswami's work, we see a predominance of Sukla Yajurveda verses in there. So there is a very commonly understood system of Sukla Yajurveda Sandhya Vandana, which I'm pretty sure that Sanatana Goswami and Rupa Goswami, they would have been performing that. Gopal Bhatta Goswami is a different matter because he came from South India. He's also a Brahmin. So we can say Rupa, Sanatana, and Jiva were all from the same family. They're all Gauda Saraswat Brahmins, and they were living in central India, northern central India. They would probably be performing Sukla Yajurveda Sandhya Vandana. Gopal Bhatta Goswami is another case. He probably, from Sri Rangam, he's either a Krishna Yajurvedi or a Samavedi, or more rare than that, it's possible that he could be a Shukla Yajurvedi from South India. There's a type of Shukla Yajurveda in South India. It's a little bit different from North India. The Shukla Yajurveda in North India is Madhyandini Vajasaneya Samhita, Madhyandina branch. In Southern India, it's the Kanva branch of the Shukla Yajurveda. If you want to know the differences, we can talk about it some other time. I have audios of the mantras. They're chanted slightly different in those different branches of the Vedas. So they also perform the Sandhya Vandana slightly differently. Okay, so in each case, and very rarely, I doubt, but it's possible also he could be a Rigvedi. So we don't really know about Gopal Bhatta what Veda he followed exactly, or what type of Sandhya Vandana. But we have a pretty good idea about the other three, Rupa, Sanatana, and Jiva. So whether they said anything about that, we have to have a look in the commentary. We'll see. So, but according here to verse 318, Bodhayana Shaka, according to Bodhayana Shmiti, excuse me, learned people should worship Sri Hari as situated in the fire by offering oblations of ghee. Okay, so this is important. When we offer a fire ritual or fire sacrifice, we think of Sri Hari as being in the flames of the fire. Or we can think of the fire pit basically like the mouth of Lord Vishnu, and we're offering ghee and grains into the fire. Just like we offer ghee and grains every day to the deity, we also offer ghee and grains into the fire. It's the mouth of Lord Vishnu. It's like the fire is like his tongue. So Sri Hari is situated in the fire, in the fire ritual, the yaga. As situated in the heart by meditating upon him. So he's also situated. So he's situated in the flames of the fire. He's situated in the heart also as the Paramatman. Within the heart, there is the Jivatman and the Paramatman. There's the individual soul, and there's the super soul, or the Supreme Personality of Godhead, within the heart of the living being, like two birds in a tree, right? Which is stated in the Upanishads. And as situated in the sun by chanting the Gayatri Mantra. So the point here, Bodhayana is trying to tell us that just in the same way as we worship the Lord in the sun, Surya Narayana, by the Gayatri Mantra, similarly, when we do meditation, we meditate on the Lord in the heart, right? And as Paramatma. And when we do a fire ceremony, we worship the Lord Hari in the fire, in the flames of the fire. So, continuing on. Text number 319, which is from Padma Purana, and seems to be only half of a verse. He says, the Supreme Lord is worshipped as present in the sun, in the Surya. Deya sada savriti mandala madhyavarti Narayana Sarasijasana Vistaha Keyuravan Makarakundalavan Kiriti Hari Hiranmaya Vapuhu Prita Sankha Chakra. So Hari with his Sankha Chakra, right? Narayana, Hari, Narayana with his Sankha Chakra, they are within the sun globe. They're there within the mandala of the sun, Surya Narayana. When he is worshipped in water, this is done by offerings of water. Okay, so when he's situated in water, we offer water. Surya. Okay. So, okay, this may also be alluding to the fact that we offer arghya to the sun, water. We offer water to the sun, which is a type of tarpana or arghya. Arghya, again, we were discussing the word arghya. Arghya is for washing the hands, but it's also for sprinkling over the head of a guest, refreshing a guest. So we're offering this arghya. When we offer arghya to the sun, the idea is that it's symbolic of helping the sun. It's like a missile, which helps to destroy the demons that are attacking the sun. Okay, so then now we're going to talk about the actual process, the vidi, or the prayoga, the procedure for performing the Tantric Sanjaya. So text 320, it says, the process of such worship. An intelligent devotee should meditate on the lotus feet of Sri Krishna while chanting the Mula Mantra. Again, what is the Mula Mantra? The Mula Mantra is, it says here, Mula Mantram Ato Ucharya. Ata Ucharya. Ato Charya. Charyaya. Means by thus chanting the Mula Mantra, meditating, dhyanan, Krishnangri Pankaje. Pankaje means like a lotus, right? So the lotus feet of Krishna, right? Then Shri Krishnam Tarpayamiti, when we see the word iti, it means that some direct speech is given, some direct mantra is given to chant. Shri means 3 times, right? Samyak Tarpayet, Tarpana. Tarpayet means to offer tarpana or water, like arghya, like that. And kriti means to do. Okay, so an intelligent devotee should meditate on the lotus feet of Sri Krishna while chanting the Mula Mantra and then offer him oblations 3 times while saying, I offer oblations to Sri Krishna. In Sanskrit, Shri Krishnam Tarpayami, Shri Krishnam Tarpayami, Shri Krishnam Tarpayami. Right? So what we do is, just as we do in the Vedic Sanjaya Vandanam, in the Tantric Sanjaya Vandanam, or the Krishna Sanjaya Vandanam, the Pancharatric Sanjaya Vandanam, right? The Agamic Sanjaya Vandanam, we are going to take water and we're going to pour it into our cupped hands, hold it up at eye level, and we're going to pour it out while chanting these mantras 3 times, right? Or Shri Krishnam Tarpayami, Shri Krishnam Tarpayami, Shri Krishnam Tarpayami. Okay. Thinking
Swami?
of the lotus feet. Yeah.
So, but this would be after chanting Gopal mantra?
No, this before. This will be before. Yeah. If look, the Tantric Sanjaya is also based on the paradigm or the example of the Vedic Sanjaya. The Vedic Sanjaya has 2 parts in it. First of all is the arghya. Second of all is the japa. So I'm assuming it doesn't say. It may say, maybe it'll say whether it's before or after, but we assume that it's on the same example. It's in the same paradigm as the Vedic Sanjaya. That you first of all offer the tarpana, and then do the japa.
Yeah, because here it's saying while chanting the Mula Mantra and then offer him oblations.
Yeah. Okay. So what I'm sorry. Klim Krishnaya Govindaya Gopijana Vallabhaya Swaha. Shri Krishnam Tarpayami. Klim Krishnaya Govindaya Gopijana Vallabhaya Swaha. Shri Krishnam Tarpayami. Right, like that. So say it before saying Shri Krishnam Tarpayami. Thank you for pointing that out. You're right. You have to chant the Mula Mantra and then you have to chant Shri Krishnam Tarpayami. Okay. You have to chant the Mula Mantra and then meditating on the Lord's lotus feet and then say Shri Krishnam Tarpayam. Maybe it's what you say. Maybe it's what you say. Maybe you should do the chanting first, finish the chanting, and then just say Shri Krishna Tapayami Shri Krishna. Maybe, but the way I read it is you would say the mantra and then say Gopal mantra, then say Shri Krishna Tapayami. Say the Gopal mantra, then Shri Krishna Tapayami. I don't know. We should look at the commentary and find out if there's any mention like that. But let's see. Thereafter, one should offer, this is text 321. If we go on, we'll probably get an idea if we go on, okay? Because the details are sometimes, you have to read more than one verse to understand the whole thing in context. So let's see if that is answered. If that question, it's a good question. And let's see if that's answered in the following slokas. Text 321 says, thereafter, one should offer arghya to Sri Krishna, who is situated within the sun. Okay, so we get the idea here that we're thinking of Surya Narayana in the sun, but we're actually thinking of him in the form of Krishna. We're thinking of Krishna within the sun here. Whereas in the Vedic Sanjaya, we're thinking of Narayana in the sun, Surya Narayana. Now we're thinking of Krishna situated within the sun. Maybe we should have thought of Krishna within the sun in the Vedic Sanjaya also. I don't know. So thereafter, one should offer arghya to Sri Krishna, who is situated within the sun, and who is the object of meditation while chanting the Kama Gayatri. The Kama Gayatri, and it specifically says in the Sanskrit here, Krishnaya, unto Krishna, right? Surya Mandala Vartini, in the Surya Mandala to Krishna, Karma Gayatri, Gayatri, right? Dada Argyam Anantaram. Anantaram means afterwards. Afterwards, you have to do this arghya to Krishna, situated in the sun with the Kama Gayatri. Right now, first of all, the first verse, 320, says to use the Mula mantra, which is the Gopal mantra. 321, however, says to use the Kama Gayatri. Now, this is the first mention we've had of Kama Gayatri, isn't it not? In second Vilasa, where it talked about all these different mantras, it didn't talk about the Kama Gayatri. It only talked about the Gopal mantra. So here we see that we've got the Gopal mantra and we've also got the Kama Gayatri, the Kamadev Gayatri, which is Klim Gopi Jana Klim Kamadevaya Vidmahe Pushpavanaya Dhimahi Tannonanga Prachodayat. Right? So that is the Kama Gayatri. So that also is probably given in initiation by the Acharya in the Diksha. Okay, so then continuing on from the Sanat Kumar Kalpa, which is a book of Vaishnava, Sanat Kumar Kalpa also, I believe, is the Nimbarka text, or maybe not written by Nimbarkas, but it's a text which is studied by the Nimbarkas. First, one should chant the Bija mantra, then Klim, right? Klim, then Kamadeva, right? Then Kamadeva, ending in the fourth dative case, which means Kamadevaya, right? Klim, Kamadevaya, right? Then Vidmahe, then Pushpavanaya. Here it says Pushpavanaya, but Pushpavanaya, right? Pushpavana means, Pushpa means flower, and Bana means arrow, an arrow made of flowers. So Kamadeva is the god Cupid. He's the god of love, and he has a bow made of sugarcane, and the string of the bow is made of bumblebees, of bees, the bees that love the honey, right? So honeybees make up the string, and the bow is made of sugarcane, and he has arrows which he shoots at people to make them fall in love. And those arrows are made of flowers. Okay, Pushpavanaya. And the Vedic understanding of Kamadeva is that he rides on a parrot, actually, on a green parrot. So I'll try to find a picture for you sometime. Then then Dimahi, then Tan Nonanga. So Tan Naha, and then Ananga. Ananga means, Anga means limbs, Ananga means no limbs, right? So Kamadev has no limbs. He has no body. Why does he have no body? He has no body because there's a story, and this is supposed to have happened in South India in a place called Hampi, which is I've been there. There's a hill called the Matunga Hill, and if you go up on top of the hill, there's a place that they say Lord Shiva was performing penances and he was meditating. So at a certain time, the story goes that the Devas wanted to get Lord Shiva to wake up from his meditation. And so to disturb his meditation, they sent Kamadev there to wake him up from his meditation. So he was in trance. They wanted him to come back to normal consciousness. So they sent Kamadev to agitate him and bring him back to consciousness. Because Shiva was not ready to come back to consciousness, when he was woken up from his trance, he opened his third eye and he burned Kamadev to ashes before waking him up from the trance. So Kamadev, because of this pastime, Kamadev has no body because his body was burned up by Shiva. Okay, so that happened in the capital of the Vijayanagara Empire, Hampi, on the Matunga Hill in South India, in Karnataka. So it's a very nice story, nice place, very beautiful place, and so this is why he's called Ananga. He has no body. He is not Anga, but Ananga. An or A, when you put it in the beginning of a Sanskrit word, makes it the opposite. So that person who has no body. So Tan Nonanga Pachodaya. Thus, the Kama Gayatri Mantra is Tim Kamadevaya Vidmehi Pushpapanaya Dimhi Tan Nonanga Pachodaya. So with this mantra, you're going to offer one argya. After you offer the argya with the Gopal mantras, you're going to offer one argya with the Kamadev Gayatri. So that's Kim Kamadevaya Vidmehi Pushpapanaya Dimhi Tan Nonanga Pachodaya Ate. And then you will say Shri Krishnam Tarpayami, right? Okay, then continue on to text 323, right? After meditating on Shri Krishna within the sun, one should chant the Kama Gayatri 10 times, right? So here it's specifically said, right, that you should chant 10 times. Dasada japet. Japet means to chant, right? And it can be in the mind. Normally it's in the mind, or it can be softly as japa. There's 3 different ways of chanting. Even out loud is a type of chanting, but normally it's in the mind. And so here, after meditating on Shri Krishna within the sun, one should chant the Kama Gayatri 10 times. Okay, so the idea is here you're right. You're actually right. Here it's saying that you should first offer the argya first, and then you should chant. Then you should chant 10 times. Then while saying, please forgive me, which is the word chamashveti. There's a spelling mistake here in the Sanskrit here, but anyhow, it's chamashva. Chamashva is what you chamashva means forgive me, please forgive me. Then while saying chamashva, forgive me, please forgive me, one should offer argya to Shri Krishna, who is brilliant as brilliant as the sun. Okay, so after meditating on Krishna within the sun, one should chant the Kama Gayatri 10 times. Then, while saying "Please forgive me," one should offer argya to Shri Krishna, who is brilliant as the sun. Now, once again, we have a system here in Hari Bhakti Vilasa where you have to figure out the chronology here. What comes first? So, is it first that you do the argya, then you chant it 10 times, then you again say, "Please forgive me," and offer another argya? Or is it that you do this first and then afterwards you do your chanting? I don't know. But here it's specifically said in this verse, after meditating on Shri Krishna within the sun, one should chant the Kama Gayatri 10 times. Then while saying, "Forgive me," Please forgive me. One should offer argue to Shri Krishna, who is brilliant as the sun. Okay, that's continuing on. Text 324. In order to establish the specific rules and regulations regarding the process of Tantric Sanjaya and worshipping the Lord within the water, the following statements are herein presented. Okay, so Ata Tantric Sanjaya Vidihi, the process for executing the Tantric Sanjaya according to another opinion. So this is what I said. There are different opinions on different processes, and so therefore he's going to give you another opinion of how to do the Sanjaya. So he's not saying that one is right and one is wrong. He's quoting from different shastras, and he's saying that there are different methods of doing the Tantric Sanjaya, and therefore you can, you pick, or your guru is going to explain to you, your acharya is going to explain to you which one is the best one for you, and you follow that. So this is verses 325 to 329. It explains, first of all, a Vaishnava should put some water in his right palm and then pour it into his left palm, chanting the Hridaya Mantra. The Hridaya Mantra normally is Om Hridayaya Namaha. And we'll see. Let's see if in the Sanskrit there's any mention of the Hridaya Mantra. No, it just says Hridaya Mantra. Hridaya Mantrena, by the Hridaya Mantrena. So Adau Dakshina Hastena, you're going to put some water in the right hand, and then from the right hand it's going to go into the left hand. Okay. Right hand poured into the left hand, chanting the Hridaya Mantra, Hridaya Namaha. Then he should let that water escape through the gaps in his fingers. We're assuming that's through the left hand fingers, right? So that it falls, onto his right palm. So you take water in your right hand, pour it into your left hand, then pour the water back into your right palm, and then pour the water out through the right fingers. So that it lands on the right palm, so that he can sprinkle it on his head. Okay. First of all, so take water in the right hand, pour in the left hand, pour it back in the right hand, and then have it flow out let water escape through the gaps in the fingers. Okay, gaps in the fingers. So pour the water from the right hand into the way it's written here is you put water into the left palm from the right palm, then let it fall through the fingers back onto the right palm, sprinkle it on your head. One should repeat this 4 times. Thereafter, he should take some water in the right palm, sniff it with his left nostril, and exhale through his right nostril. So breathe in over the water and breathe out through the right nostril. Then one should take 2 cups. This is in Sanjaya Vandanam, there's a system, in Vedic Sanjaya Vandanam, there's a system like this. It's called Agamarshana, and there's a specific Vedic mantra for it. But anyway, normally in Vedic Sanjaya Vandanam, when you do this, you're thinking about the sin in the body being expelled into the water, and you throw the water to the side after you do that. So then one should take 2 palmfuls of water, 2 palms full of water, and offer argya 3 times to Krishna. Take 2 palms full of water and offer. So put the 2 palms together, I'm assuming, and then offer three argyas to Krishna, who is situated within the sun while chanting the Gopal Gayatri Mantra. The Gopal Gayatri Mantra. Now, the Gopal Gayatri Mantra may be a little bit different from the other one. So this Gopal Gayatri Mantra is going to be explained in the next few verses. Okay, so let's continue on. So text 330 says, and also it says, here's what the Gopal Gayatri Mantra is. One should first of all chant the word Gopijana, right? So So it's interesting. We note here that no Bija mantra is mentioned. So it doesn't mention you start with the Klim Bija mantra, but maybe you start with the Klim Bija mantra, maybe you don't, but it's not mentioned here. So Gopijana in the fourth dative case, which means Gopijanaya. Then one should chant word Vidmahi, followed by the word Gopijanaya again in the dative case. So Gopijanaya Vidmahi, Gopijanaya, and then Dhimahi. Then one should chant the word Dhimahi. Then Tanna Krishna Prachodayat. Right? So the Gopal Gayatri Mantra is Gopijanaya Vidmahi, Gopijanaya Dhimahi, Tanna Krishna Prachodayat. And that's from Hari Bhakti Vilas, third Vilas, text 330. Text 330. That explains that mantra. So that's another mantra. That's called the Gopal Gayatri Mantra. Okay. So we don't know if there are other Gaudiya Vaishnavas who were initiated into this, but we were not initiated into this particular mantra. But maybe some other Gaudiya Vaishnavas are initiated into this particular mantra. Continuing on, text 331, it says, thereafter one should carefully perform the nyasa of Shri Gopala Gayatri Mantra on one's forehead, one's forehead, right? So the head's the top of the head. Forehead is the front of the above the eyes, right? Eyes, arms, legs, and the entire body. So it sounds like it's Saranga Nyasa. It says Mudni Nyaset Tad Angani. So the head and the limbs. Lalate Netrayor, the forehead, the two eyes. Bujayor, the two arms or shoulders, arms. Padayor, the 2 feet. Right, and all of the different limbs. Okay, so there's a nyasa which is to be done, right? So then text number 332. Text number 332 explains one should chant Gopi Janaya 5 times, Vidmahi 3 times, Gopi Janaya 5 times, Dhimahi 3 times, Tanna Krishna 4 times, Prachodayat 4 times. This process for performing the nyasa is touching Gopi Janaya to the head, Vidmahi to the forehead, Gopi Janaya to the eyes, Dhimahi to the arms, Tanna Krishna to the legs. Legs, is it legs or feet? Okay. And Prachodayat to the entire body. Okay, so this is the first nyasa that we've come across. This is a nyasa that has to be done with this particular mantra, this Gopal Gayatri Mantra, and it involves different parts of the body. So this could be written out. Let's see, this is 332. Oh, I see. Gopi Janaya, Vidmahe, Dhimahi, Tanna Krishna. Okay. Prachodayat. Okay. Now I understand. All right. So when it says here, you should chant Gopi Janaya 5 times, Vidmahi 3 times, etc. When it says these different numbers, the numbers in the commentary, it says the numbers given are because these words have got those numbers of letters, those numbers of syllables. So for instance, Gopi Janaya is 5 syllables. Vidmahi is 3 syllables. Gopi Janaya again 5 syllables. Dhimahi 3 syllables. Tanna Krishna is 4 syllables. Tanna Krishna is 4 syllables. And Prachodayat is Prachodayat, 4 syllables. Right? So it's it's not the mention of numbers here is not that you chant these different words 4 or 5 times. That's a misunderstanding of the translation. The translation is according to the sloka, but the purport in the Digdarshini Tika of Sanatan here says, it says Panchabir iti. that the idea of 5 is as follows: Varna, Varnakir, Varnahi, Svarteka, Svarteka. So each letter, it's letter by letter. Letter by letter, there's 5. Letter by letter, there's 3. Letter by letter, there's. So, okay, not exactly sure how to perform this nyasa, but sounds like that he's just counting the number of syllables in the mantra. Okay, so we can continue on. Text 333 says, one should then meditate on Sri Krishna as he enjoys his rasa dance pastimes within the sun. So we should think of Krishna in the sun performing the rasa dance with all the gopis, and chant the above mentioned Gayatri Mantra while raising his arms in front of him. Raising his arms in front of him. Ukshipta Bhujo. Ukshipta Bhujo usually means palms together. Ukshipta means above. Shanmukha. It could be in front like this, or it could be above the head, right? When you think about doing this. So when you're doing this meditation, right? So then continuing on, text 334 and 335. The process of worshiping the Lord in water. Okay, after performing the anganyasa means touching different limbs of the body with certain syllables or mantras. While chanting the appropriate mantras means for anganyasa there are different mantras. Shriyana Mahasir Seswa Shigavase Kavachai Hum Netrabyambosate Astrayapate. Then one should meditate on a lotus flower within the water, and then offer oblations to the Lord while chanting the Pita Mantra. The Pita Mantra. There are different mantras. Pita Puja, normally Yoga Pitaya Namaha and Adara Shakti Namaha. There's a few different Pita mantras. Thereafter, one should invoke Sri Krishna within the lotus flower, and after performing the Saranganyasa, right? Now, is it mentioned in the Sanskrit, Saranganyasa? It says Anganyasa Swamantrena. With your mantra, you should do the Anganyasa. Kritva Pita Mantrena. Tarpayech. Sakrit. Once again, he's going to do the Tarpana. Okay, it says, thereafter, one should invoke Sri Krishna within the lotus flower, and after performing the Saranganyasa, one should mentally offer 5 substances, such as sandalwood paste, into the water and display the Dhenu Mudra. Okay, so here it says Panchopachara. So Panchopachara Puja is done mentally, and there are different fingers to touch to do this normally. This is what normally the way Spartans do this. And so Panchopachara means Lam Sivyapani Gandham Samarpayami, Hamakashatmani, Dupamagrapayami. So you're offering Gandha, Pushpa, Dupa, Deepa, Naivedya mentally, right? And you are with different hand mudras. And then at the end, you show the Dhenu Mudra, which is the mudra that looks like the udder of a cow. Okay? Okay. After performing the Anganyasa, while chanting the appropriate mantras, one should meditate on the lotus flower within the water. Exactly where, if there's actually real water or real lotus flower here, I'm not sure. And then offer oblations to the Lord while chanting the Pita Mantra. And this is, what is it, 335. So let's look in the purport and let's see if it says anything about the Pita Mantra. Okay, let's continue on. Okay, text 336 to 337. Right, a noble person should think this water to be nectar, and chant his worshipful mantra, visualizing it to be above the water. Thereafter, he should offer 108 oblations of this water on the head of Shri Krishna. Okay. He's going to offer 108 oblations or tarpanas while on the head of Krishna, who is situated on a lotus flower in the water. He should follow this by chanting the Mula Mantra 25 times. Panchavimsati is mentioned here, 25 times, right? Visualizing it to be above the water, and then perform Archamana according to the previously described procedure, but it wasn't described exactly. But you have to do Archamana after this is finished. Okay, so now continuing on after that, so he's going to offer 108 tarpanas of water, right? Shri Krishna Tarpayami, Shri Krishna Tarpayami, Shri Krishna Tarpayami 108 times. And then chanting the Mula Mantra 25 times. He's going to chant the Gopal Mantra 25 times, visualizing it above the water, and then perform Archamana at the end. So after he's finished chanting 25 times the Gopal Mantra. So then text 338 to 342, he's going to, there's some special procedures for then offering oblations to the demigods. In Sanjia Vandana, in Vedic Sanjia Vandana, you also sometimes people offer planetary tarpanas to Om Adityam Tarpayami, Somam Tarpayami, Angarakam Tarpayami, like that. Normally, many Vaishnavas don't do that. Bodhina follows of Bodhina do, but followers of Apastamba don't do that, who are Vaishnavas. But normally Smartas do that. So here, he's probably going to speak about offering some tarpana to some of the demigods. So this is coming from Padma Purana, and it says, first one should offer oblations to Brahma, Vishnu, and Rudra, and Prajapati. Then one should offer oblations to the Yakshas, Gandharvas, Apsaras, Asuras, cruel serpents, birds, trees, Vidyadharas, reservoirs of water, those who fly in the sky, those who survive on air, and those who are sinful. After offering oblations to the demigods, one should use his sacred thread and place a chadar on his left shoulder. One should use his sacred thread and place his chadar on his left shoulder. After offering oblations, one should place the chadar around the neck. One should offer oblations to the human beings, sages, and sons. Okay, so when you do these, when you're offering tarpana to all these living beings above, you have to have your sacred thread on upaviti, on the regular way. When you offer oblations to the human beings, sages, and sons of sages, you have to have it round the neck like a garland, which is called, there's upaviti, there's prachinaviti, right? And there's niviti. Of course, there's over the left shoulder, over the right shoulder, around the neck. Okay, so around the neck is called malya or niviti. And that's the way you should do it when you're offering tarpana to human beings, sages, and sons of sages. Thereafter, one should offer oblations to Sanaka, Sananda, Sanatana, Kapila, Asura Bodhi, and Panchashika by saying, may all of you be satisfied with this water offered by me. And that is Tripyata, 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 usually is what is the mantra that you chant. Means be satisfied, be satisfied, be satisfied. And we have to look, and we'll see in Hari Bhakti Vilasa if there's actually some more given in the purport. We'll see. 338. There's no commentary really. Okay, so you should just do that tarpanas for those personalities. Okay, so continuing on. Right? Continuing on after 342, so we come to 343, right? It says, thereafter one should offer oblations of barley and water, right? Barley and water. Does it say barley and water? akshata. It says akshata udakehi. Akshata means just rice and water, plain rice, uncooked rice and water, to the rishis, right? To Marichi, Atri, Angira, Pulasya, Pulaha, Kratu, Pracheta, Vishishta, Brigu, and Narada, as well as other sages among the demigods and sages among the brahmanas. Continuing on, 344 and 345, Apasavyam is mentioned here. So Apasavyam means to put it on the right shoulder. Okay, and Savyam means the regular way, Upaviti. Once you keep his sacred thread on the left shoulder, placing his left knee on the ground, one on the ground, one should offer oblations of water, sesame seeds, teal or black sesame, right? And sandal paste to the ancestors. I don't know if it's actually sandal paste, but just anyway, water and sesame is usually what's offered to the ancestors, right? Such as Agnishvata Soma, Barishman, Ushmapa, Kavyanala, Varhishad, and Ajyapa. Continuing on, text 346 to 350, it says, one should then offer oblations to Yama, Dhamaraja, Mrityu, Antaka, Vaivashvata, Kala, Sarvabhutdakshaya, Audumvara, Dagna, Nila, Parameshti, Vrikodara, Chitra, and Chitragupta. Chitra and Chitragupta are the two secretaries of Yamaraj, right? One keeps all of the information in a book about all the sinful activities and pious activities that you do, and the other person is like the witness who witnesses it. There are some people who offer them a little bit of food every day, Yamaraj and Chitragupta, and the Bhutas get, Madhvas often do this, Smartas sometimes do it too. They offer a little rice and water at every meal for those persons as like a bit of a bribe, so that after death, if they go to those persons, they get a good, they're tried for their sins and their pious actions in the proper way. Anyway, just to appease those persons. So next, one should hold kusha grass in his hands, meaning he should put on his kusha grass ring and offer oblations to the forefathers of his father's family and his mother's family while observing the prescribed rules and regulations and chanting their names and lineage. Then one should chant the following mantra. Yeha Vandava Va Yehanya Janmani Vandavaha Te Triptim Akilam Yantu Ye Tasmat Toya Kakshinaha. May all those who are related to me in this life and were related to me in previous lives, as well as those who expect oblations from me, be pleased. Right. So then it says that according to the evidence given in the Kurma Purana and Padma Purana, this is text 351, some learned persons suggest that one should offer oblations to the demigods only once before performing his Sanjia Upasana. Okay, so according to the Padma Purana and Kurma Purana, some learned persons say that you should do all this before you do the Sanjia Upasana, but here it's written that it seems like it's written that you do it afterwards. Anyway, in confirming this opinion, the Padma Purana states, after using clay for bathing in this way, a person should carefully perform achman and come out of the water. Okay, so we're back to the bath. In Padma Purana, it says that he should then dress himself in a clean white dhoti and chadar and then offer oblations for the satisfaction of the three worlds. Okay, so it's confirming here that this tarpana should be done. This tarpana is to be done after you perform the bath and not necessarily after your tantric sandhya or pancharatric sandhya, but you can do it before and then just do the pancharatric sandhya, which seems eminently easier to do. So that's a confirmation of that. So text 353 in the Shri Ramarchana Chandrika, it's stated, unless one first squeezes out the water or changes his wet clothes and then performs the Sanjia rituals, his endeavors to perform rituals while bathing will not yield any tangible result. So I mentioned this before, that the gamsha which you wear to bathe, you have to wring that out, and the squeezing of the water has to be, the water squeezed out from the wet clothes, right, is offered to people who don't have anybody to do tarpana for them, right? They have no children, they have no heirs, no issues, no people who are going to offer them water oblations as their ancestors. So, text 354, it says, the bath of a wicked person who squeezes the water out of his wet cloth after folding it 3 times. So apparently you're not supposed to fold it 3 times. This is called nishpida, right? So this is the type of thing that you do at the end of the bath, and squeezes the water from the cloth back into the water, certainly goes in vain. So you're not supposed to fold it 3 times before you squeeze it, and you're also not supposed to put that water back into the sacred water of the river or the pond or the tank that you've taken bath with. So, continuing on, text 355, it says, right, there's some criteria for bathing. So some more about bathing is going to be discussed. Even though we've got past bathing, we're coming back to bathing a little bit here because we started discussing the tarpana, and so he's decided to come back and explain a little bit. In the Kashi Khanda again, I think that was in Skanda Purana, but we're going to have a look at that. There's a couple of verses here. It says, a godless person cannot be purified even if he bathes in all the holy rivers and uses clay and cow dung during his entire life to purify himself. Does a fisherman become purified by staying in the water the whole day? In other words, he's saying sarcastically here, look, maybe you bathe in holy rivers and you use clay and cow dung your entire life to purify yourself. But even a fisherman stays in the water all day, but he doesn't become pure because he's a fisherman, he kills fish. Similarly, an atheist cannot be purified even if he bathes hundreds of times. Okay. So continuing on, it says, in a conversation in the Padma Purana between Narada and Ambarish, it says, if a person who has been godless since birth, right, bathes during an auspicious occasion in the holy reservoir of water at a holy place, or in the sacred water of the Ganges, and gives a huge amount of wealth in charity, he still cannot become purified. This is my opinion. Even if an atheistic person, so we're talking about godless people, right? Even if an atheistic person at the time of death lights a blazing fire with wood and ghee and enters it after circumambulating it, he still cannot acquire the qualification to go to heaven or achieve any other benefit. So what it's saying is the mentality is very important. If a person's godless, he doesn't think about the Supreme Person, he doesn't think with devotion about Shri Krishna, right? Even if he takes, can take as many baths in the Ganges as he likes, he can do any sort of ritualistic ceremony, but he's not going to achieve any benefit or go to heaven. So continuing with text 359 from the Uttara Bhaga, or the last part of the last section of the Bhavishya Purana, it says, only a person whose hands, legs, speech, and mind are fully under control and who is endowed with spiritual knowledge, austerity, and fame is able to achieve the result of bathing in a holy place. 5 kinds of people: the faithless, sinners, atheists, the suspicious, and those who are argumentative cannot obtain any benefit by bathing in a holy place. Thus ends the translation of the 3rd Vilas of Sri Hari Bhakti Vilas. Okay, so there's a lot to think about there. And basically we got up to the point of doing the Tantric Sanjaya after the bath. And then he went back and he talked a little bit more about bathing and about how you don't actually get any benefit from bathing. if you're just an atheist or a sinner or devoid of austerity, or you're argumentative, or what does it say? Faithless, sinners, atheists, suspicious, and those who are argumentative. Interesting. Okay, so we're going to leave it here at the end of the third Vilas. We'll take it up next time with the fourth Vilas. And what I'll do is I'll look for some of the information on and try to figure out exactly how to do this, the Tantric Sanjia or the Agamic Sanjia, and the Tarpanas, right? And I'll share that with everybody.